Have you ever found yourself constantly saying yes, even when you don't want to? Maybe it's because you're afraid of disappointing someone, or perhaps you don't want to feel rejected or judged. But here's the truth. Constantly trying to please others is a trap, and it's one that many of us fall into without even realizing it. It might seem harmless at first. You might feel like you're being kind, generous, or helpful. But if we're being honest, people-pleasing often comes from a place of fear of conflict, fear of disapproval, or even fear of being unloved. Why is it so hard to break this pattern? At a deep level, people-pleasers often feel like they are only worthy if they can make others happy. It's like they've internalized the idea that their value is dependent on how much they give or sacrifice for others. So they say yes to everything, even at the expense of their own happiness, time, and well-being. They convince themselves that if they just do enough, then they will finally earn love, appreciation, and acceptance. But here's the catch. No matter how much you give, there will always be someone else who demands more, and someone else who expects even more from you. And the more you give, the less you'll have left for yourself. This cycle leads to a slow erosion of your own needs and desires. Before you know it, you're emotionally drained, resentful, and disconnected from your true self. You lose sight of what you actually want in life because you're too focused on meeting everyone else's expectations. Jung understood this struggle deeply. He identified what he called the persona, which is the outward mask we wear to meet social expectations. The persona helps us fit into society. It's the version of ourselves that's designed to be liked, accepted, and approved. But here's the problem. The persona isn't real. It's a social construct, and when we invest too much in it, we forget who we really are. We become so focused on what others want us to be that we lose touch with our authentic self. The constant drive to please others is rooted in the persona, and it's what keeps us locked in the cycle of self-sacrifice. It's also why so many people feel empty, even though they're constantly doing things for others. The truth is, the persona doesn't feed our soul. It feeds our need for external validation. But external validation is fleeting. It can never truly satisfy the deeper need for self-worth. So, why do we keep doing it? Part of it is because we're conditioned to believe that being liked is a fundamental part of our survival. Our need for social connection is hardwired into us. And in many cases, when we were younger, we learned that the more we pleased others, the more secure we felt in our relationships and environment. But as we grow older, this pattern becomes toxic. It stops being about connection and starts being about control. We might start to wonder, if we stop pleasing others, will we be rejected? Will we be seen as selfish or unworthy? Those fears are often rooted in childhood experiences where we learn to associate love and approval with meeting others' needs. Jung believed that this internal struggle is what keeps us from becoming our true selves. We're caught in the tension between the persona and the self, the authentic, whole version of who we are. The persona wants to please, fit in, and conform. But the self knows the truth, that to live authentically, we must let go of the need for external validation and embrace our true nature, flaws, imperfections, and all. Carl Jung believed that we all wear a persona, a psychological mask that helps us fit in, function in society, and play the roles others expect of us. It's our way of navigating the world, avoiding conflict, and keeping relationships intact. But what happens when we identify too strongly with our persona? We become trapped by it. You're not just playing the role anymore. You are the role. You become the responsible one, the nice guy, or the always helpful friend. Think about it. In your career, you might be the person everyone relies on for support. At first, it feels good. You're seen as dependable, someone who can handle pressure and deliver results. But eventually, the weight of always being the go-to person becomes a burden. You start saying yes to every task, even when you're stretched thin, all because you're afraid of being seen as unreliable or selfish. And then there's the social media mask. Maybe you're the one always posting happy moments, family photos, and successes, carefully curating your image for others. But beneath the surface, you're exhausted, lonely, or overwhelmed. The mask protects you from criticism, but it also keeps you from being truly seen. But what happens when we wear the persona too long? What happens when we start to believe that we are only valuable when we're pleasing others? We forget that the persona isn't our real self. It's just a mask. Jung said that the danger of over-identifying with the persona is that we lose access to the parts of ourselves that don't fit the mask. We suppress emotions, needs, and desires that seem too much or too inconvenient for the role we're playing. And that's when the shadow begins to form. The shadow, as Jung described it, is the collection of all the qualities we repress or deny in ourselves because they don't fit the image we want to project. When you spend years trying to please others, the parts of you that get rejected, like anger, selfishness, or assertiveness, become buried in the shadow. For example, think about how you feel when you can't say no to a friend who constantly asks for favors. At first, it feels like just a minor inconvenience, but over time, you start feeling resentment. You're giving, and you feel as though no one is giving back. The anger you suppress towards them isn't gone, it's just hidden, buried deep. The more you push that anger down, the more it festers. It builds up and starts to leak out in ways you don't expect. You might snap at a colleague over something trivial or become passive-aggressive with your partner. You might even feel a deep sense of resentment towards people who never asked you to give so much. But it's all because you've neglected your own boundaries. Jung noted that the shadow isn't just the dark parts of ourselves, it's also the untapped power within us. The anger you feel, it's a sign that you have unmet needs. The frustration you suppress, it's a signal that you're not asserting yourself enough. But here's the real twist. When we ignore our shadow, it controls us. It doesn't just stay hidden in a dark corner of our psyche. It seeps into everything we do. You might end up feeling drained and overwhelmed, but still push yourself to be the perfect friend, colleague, or partner. Or worse, you might find yourself sabotaging your own success because you're afraid of being too much for others. The shadow doesn't want to hurt you, it wants to be integrated. Jung believed that when we embrace the shadow, we access the parts of ourselves that can help us become truly powerful, authentic, and whole. So the question becomes, are you ready to stop ignoring the shadow, to stop suppressing your true self? It's the only way to stop the cycle of resentment and burnout. Individuation is one of Carl Jung's core ideas, and it's the process of becoming your true, authentic self, embracing both the light and the dark parts of your psyche. Jung believed that individuation is an ongoing journey, a lifelong process. It's not about being perfect or fitting into societal expectations. It's about aligning with your true self, breaking free from the constraints of your persona, and learning to live authentically. At its core, individuation requires you to confront your shadow. It's about integrating the parts of yourself that you've ignored, denied, or repressed. These are often the aspects that are most difficult to face. Perhaps your anger, your selfishness, or your deepest fears. And it's not just about recognizing these traits, it's about accepting them. Jung didn't say we should erase our shadow or pretend it doesn't exist. Instead, he believed that true growth comes from integrating it into our conscious self. Only when we accept our shadow can we break free from the internal conflict that holds us back. For example, think about a person who's spent their whole life trying to please others. They might be highly successful in their career and maintain a perfect public image, but deep down, They're constantly stressed and anxious. Their fear of rejection and their inability to say no have kept them stuck in an exhausting loop. The individuation process would help this person recognize that their compulsive need to please others is a defense mechanism, something that developed as a way of coping with fear, insecurity, and a lack of self-worth. It's not an easy realization, but it's a crucial one. As this person begins to accept their shadow and the parts of themselves they've hidden, they start to feel more free. They can finally say no when they need to, stop sacrificing their own needs for the sake of others, and build more meaningful relationships based on authenticity rather than obligation. Individuation doesn't happen overnight. It's a process filled with discomfort and self-reflection. But as you embrace the journey, you begin to see your life transform in unexpected ways. You begin to realize that by becoming more you, you're no longer playing a role. You're living your truth. And the most liberating part of this journey is that you no longer need to please others. The validation that you once craved will no longer control your actions. You begin to live for yourself, and the people who truly appreciate you for who you are will naturally gravitate into your life. A major part of individuation is learning to set and maintain boundaries. Jung emphasized that boundaries are essential for psychological health and growth. Without boundaries, we are constantly subject to the needs, desires, and demands of others, and we lose touch with who we really are. Boundaries are about self-respect. They're not walls that push people away. Instead, they are limits that protect your energy, time, and emotional well-being. Setting boundaries means recognizing that your needs and desires are just as important as everyone else's, and that it's okay to say no when something doesn't align with your values. For example, think about someone who's always available to their friends, no matter how exhausted they feel. They might be the person who stays up late to help a friend with their problems, or always says yes to last-minute plans, even when they need time to rest. Over time, this builds up resentment and fatigue. The process of individuation requires this person to realize that saying no is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength and self-respect. Boundaries are about protecting your personal energy so that you can be your best self in every situation. This is where self-awareness comes in. Setting boundaries isn't just about telling others what you don't want. It's about understanding your own needs and desires. It's about tuning into your emotional responses and recognizing when something feels off. Maybe you feel drained after a long conversation with someone, or perhaps a certain request makes you uncomfortable. This is your inner guidance system telling you that a boundary needs to be set. And when you do set a boundary, remember, it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean you're rejecting the other person. It means you are protecting yourself. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, and boundaries are a key part of that. Over time, the more you practice setting boundaries, the more empowered you feel. You stop sacrificing your own well-being for the comfort of others. And as you start to live authentically, you'll find that your relationships shift too, no longer based on obligation or fear, but on true, balanced connection. As you begin to shed the mask of the people-pleaser and embrace your true self, something extraordinary happens. You become whole. Living authentically means no longer pretending to be someone you're not. You stop compromising your values or needs just to keep the peace. Instead, you become aligned with your true self, and you begin to feel whole. A complete version of yourself that isn't afraid to express your emotions, set boundaries, or say no when necessary. This newfound sense of authenticity brings freedom. You are no longer controlled by the fear of rejection or the pressure to please everyone around you. You start to make decisions based on what feels right for you, not based on the expectations of others. Authenticity also means you start to attract people who resonate with your true self. Your relationships become genuine, not based on masks or roles you're playing. And the best part? You'll find a deeper sense of inner peace because you're no longer living in conflict with yourself. Jung believed that the ultimate goal of individuation is to embrace both the light and dark parts of yourself. This isn't about striving for perfection. It's about accepting all aspects of who you are and learning to live with integrity. Now that we've explored the psychological and philosophical aspects of individuation and authenticity, let's turn our attention to practical techniques for setting boundaries. Setting boundaries might sound simple in theory, but in practice it can be challenging, especially for those who are used to people-pleasing. But remember, boundaries are not walls that shut people out. They're simply guidelines that help you protect your time, energy, and emotional space. 1. Set boundaries with courage. One of the most important steps in overcoming people-pleasing is learning to set boundaries. This isn't just about saying no to others. It's about recognizing your own needs and taking steps to protect your emotional space. Boundaries are essential to safeguarding your well-being and preventing others from draining your energy. Boundaries are not selfish. They are a form of self-respect. When you establish healthy boundaries, you are respecting both your own needs and the needs of others. Remember, it's okay to say no without feeling guilty. 2. Develop your true self. Jung's concept of individuation is central to this process. Individuation is the lifelong journey of integrating all parts of yourself, those parts you're proud of, and those you've been repressing. It's the process of becoming your true self, not the version of you that others want you to be. Start by engaging in self-reflection. Ask yourself, what do I want? What makes me happy? What do I value? By getting in touch with your inner desires and acknowledging your true feelings, you begin the process of self-discovery. 3. Embrace your shadow. One powerful Jungian concept to embrace here is the shadow. The shadow represents the unconscious part of ourselves that we often hide or repress because we think it's unacceptable. In the case of people-pleasers, the shadow might include feelings of anger, selfishness, or fear of rejection, emotions we push down to maintain the pleasing facade. To truly break free from people-pleasing, you must acknowledge and integrate your shadow. This doesn't mean acting on every impulse, but rather accepting these parts of yourself. Shadow work helps you develop a more authentic relationship with yourself, which makes it easier to say no and live more in line with your true values. 4. Build self-worth from within. The underlying fear of people-pleasers is often a lack of self-worth, the belief that you're not enough on your own. To overcome this, you must learn to cultivate self-love and recognize your inherent value. Start with self-compassion. Speak to yourself as you would to a dear friend. If you make a mistake or disappoint someone, treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer others. Engage in practices that nourish your soul, whether that's through journaling, meditation, or simply spending time alone to reconnect with your inner self. The more you practice self-compassion, the easier it becomes to break free from the need to please others. 5. Slowly shift your mindset. Overcoming people-pleasing doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process that requires patience. Start small. Practice saying no to small requests, and gradually work your way up to setting more significant boundaries. You'll find that the more you assert yourself, the more confident you become. Along the way, remind yourself that your worth is not based on others' approval. True self-worth comes from within and isn't contingent on constantly meeting others' expectations. 6. Seek support. If you find this journey overwhelming, consider seeking therapy or coaching. Working with a professional can help you dive deeper into your patterns and find healthier ways to navigate relationships. They can also provide accountability as you learn to set boundaries and embrace your authentic self. At this stage in the journey, you've learned that authenticity isn't a destination, it's a process. But what exactly is the reward for embracing the hard work of individuation and boundary setting? First and foremost, living authentically restores your power. When you shed the mask of the people pleaser and begin honoring your true self, you become empowered. You don't live for others anymore. You live for yourself. You recognize that your needs, desires, and aspirations matter just as much as anyone else's. This leads to self-respect. When you set and maintain healthy boundaries, you stop depleting yourself for the sake of others. You begin to prioritize your well-being, and the relationships that matter most to you flourish. Genuine connections are built on mutual respect, trust, and honesty, not on obligation. The beauty of living authentically is that it frees you from the cycle of resentment. Instead of feeling drained and taken advantage of, you find yourself in control of your energy and your time. You start to make choices that align with your deepest values. When you give, it's because you genuinely want to, not because you feel obligated to. And with that newfound freedom, you can begin to pursue your passions, dreams, and ambitions without the constant fear of rejection or judgment. You're not confined to a role anymore. You're free to create your life on your terms. This freedom also extends to your relationships. No longer constrained by the need to please, you attract people who appreciate you for who you truly are, not for the mask you wear. You create deeper, more meaningful connections that are grounded in authenticity. Now, it's time for you to take action. I know that shedding the mask of the people pleaser and embracing your true self might seem daunting at first, but remember, the journey begins with a single step. You don't have to have it all figured out right away. Start with one small change today. Say no when you need to, set one boundary, or give yourself permission to express a hidden truth. As you begin to integrate your shadow, set healthier boundaries, and embrace authenticity, you will experience a powerful transformation. You will find freedom, empowerment, and a sense of wholeness that you've been searching for your entire life. So I challenge you today, stop people-pleasing, embrace your true self, and start living authentically. You have everything inside you to reclaim your power, your peace, and your purpose. Don't wait. Your journey to wholeness starts now.